Hey guys, some times ago I challenged myself creatively to take a topic that I like to talk about, to pick a topic, and then to see if I could take all the useful things I've learned about that topic and condense it into a metaphorical story that touches on a lot of what I believe to be great lessons learned in perspective. And that idea turned out to be even better than I thought. So the concept I settled in trying to do this with was fear, dealing with fear. I have been saying for the longest time that a person's relationship with their fear is the quality of their life. And they can expand on that in the context of their own world however they wish. So this is what happened. This is what I came up with, and I want to walk you through with that story today. So in my world, fear, I often use the symbology or the symbol of a dragon to represent multiple things relevant to this, right? It represents fear, represents risk, danger. It represents myth. It represents magic. It represents a lot of these things, right? So I, in my mind, thought that this would give me the framework that I could touch on a lot of the principles in dealing with fear that I found and believe to be incredibly useful and empowering. So here's the story. The story became How to Train the Dragon. So the first thing you need to do is to acknowledge that you know the dragon is there. Acknowledgement is number one, acknowledgement of that fear. So you acknowledge that the dragon is there. And then the second thing you're going to do in training this dragon is you're going to have to find a way, you're going to have a reason in your life big enough to motivate you to go through the process of training the dragon. And the first step in training the dragon is going to be to approach it, right? You're going to approach the dragon, and all your fear response as you get closer and closer to this dragon, your fear response is going to obviously be triggered, and it's not going to want you to maintain distance or avoid, but you're going to have to override that. And the first big thing you have to do is stand in the presence of the dragon. Not move, just stand there. Stand there and let that fear feel how that fear feels. Because what happens inevitably is built into our psychology and biology, that persistence of time will slowly take the edge off and slowly start to diminish the feeling of fear. You standing in the presence of fear, over time you will become less and less and less fearful, feeling less and less fearful. It just will happen. So you have to stand there in the presence of the dragon. And then slowly, once you realize that fear response is diminished and you fear it less, you're going to do something counterintuitive, is you're going to move closer. When you move closer, the fear response is going to expand again. But once again, as long as you stand in the presence, it will eventually start to taper off and go back down again. And you're going to do this cycle until you are right there, face to face with the dragon. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to reach out and touch it. You're going to touch the dragon. That means you're going to consciously decide to do whatever it is in your world that generates that fear response. You're going to do it anyway. So touching the dragon might be speaking in public, might be approaching that person in your career ladder, boss or boss's boss that you would tend to see to avoid. It might be approaching that person that you view to be a special person in your life, but you have all these reasons as to why you're afraid to you have to touch it. You have to touch the dragon. And then again, you have to maintain that touch and stay in the presence of the dragon. Stay in the presence of that fear, of that being uncomfortable. And what happens over time is the fear response goes away. Your ability to stand there touching the dragon becomes a version of normal for you. You may recognize it. You may recognize that it's still the dragon and, have some of those things, but you're not afraid. You're not trying to run. Your brain's not shutting down. All that stuff's not happening. You're okay. You're okay with standing there in the presence. The next thing you're going to want to do is you want to look into the face, the eyes. You want to get close and stare into the eyes of the dragon, right? So what this means in your world is you're going to get into understanding why that fear is there in the first place. What actually is it? And in many cases, people have never done this. They fear this idea of a thing and this idea of what the idea of a thing could do to them that's negative, but they don't know where that original idea came from. They just assumed it's always there, and they assume it's a universal thing and it's there for everyone, but it's not. This dragon is unique, and this moment is unique, and you have to be brave enough and on mission to look into the eyes of that dragon, and you have to be so close at this vision that yet you observing it, that in the eyes of the dragon, you can see the reflection of yourself. Eyeballs reflect. You have to be very close and you have to focus in on it. And what you're going to do is you're going to see yourself in the eyes of this dragon, and you're going to realize, you're going to see you, and you are going to realize that a lot of this experience is connected to you, and you're going to see yourself in the dragon, right? And you have to, again, in this highly uncomfortable space, you need to stay there, stay present. And if you stand there long enough, what eventually happens is you lose the perspective that you are looking at a reflection of yourself in the eyes of the dragon, and then you begin to see yourself as the dragon. So you now magnify that image you have of yourself, and you realize that you are now seeing yourself as the dragon, as that concept of fear itself. And this is when a lot of transformation will happen, because you will, in this moment, become very much aware that you are co-creator with the very thing that you have been using as a deterrent or a reason or an excuse or a reason why you cannot, when in fact it is an innate and intimate part of who you are. And once you clearly understand that, when you see yourself from the perspective of you, the dragon, then all of these layers fall away. And you realize that you and the dragon literally are symbiotic. You're not in opposition. You're different sides of the same entity, the same awareness, perspective, the same life force. And then the dragon becomes an ally part of yourself. You realize that the instincts of the dragon, that thing that makes you hesitate, is a reminder to pay attention, to focus in on the moment, to understand what is going on and why you feel that way. The power of the dragon, that transformative power of the dragon, is the most missing thing in the scenarios that you will come across in your life to move you from one stage to the next stage, from one level to the next level. But you, with that power, wielding that power, your ability to be the fear, to understand it, to use that fear as a tool, is the very thing that makes you magically unstoppable. And that, my friends, is how you train the dragon, which is your dragon. So the more effective title for this metaphorical journey, this story, is How to Train Your Dragon.